Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to another episode of mock interview. আমাদের জন্য ওয়েট করে আছেন মিস্টার হেনরিক এবং ওদিক থেকে আবু জাফর ফাকুন ভাই। So let's wait for 1 minute. So I think আপনারা অলরেডি জানেন যে আমাদের আজকে ইন্টারভিউতে হেনরিক সাহেব যিনি মিস্টার হেনরিক উনি হচ্ছে আমার প্রাক্তন ম্যানেজার ছিলেন। উনি এখন ডিরেক্টর অফ সফটওয়্যার ইঞ্জিনিয়ারিং হিসেবে আছেন সাউথ আফ্রিকার একটা কোম্পানিতে, নাম হচ্ছে 2U। ডিটেলস এখন আমি বলতে পারবো না। আর জাফর যিনি উনি আগে সেফালোতে ছিলেন, ওনার প্রোফাইল দেখলে দেখবেন এখন ফ্লেক্স ফান্ডিং এ আছেন। এবং জব ইন্টারভিউটা হবে হচ্ছে আমাদের সি শার্প এবং AWS এর উপরে, বাট we will try to cover a lot of things more. Let's see. So let me share my link to him. Let me invite him. By the way, actual interview গুলোতে কিন্তু অনেক ক্যাজুয়াল হয়, হ্যাঁ, এত সিরিয়াস তো ভয়ের কিছু নেই। তো কফি খাচ্ছি, it's not like that I'm doing any sin or any unprofessional thing. And from now on I will be speaking in English because Mr. Henrik only knows English. And don't laugh hearing my English, okay? So let's wait for a bit. In the meantime, যে প্রোফাইলটা দেওয়া হয়েছে এবং যে জব লিঙ্কটা দেওয়া হয়েছে একটু দেখতে থাকেন সাইড দিয়ে যদি ইন্টারেস্টেড হন। Okay, so we have Mr. Henrik with us. Hi, Henrik. Morning.
Morning, everyone.
So yeah, welcome and thanks for joining with us. Let me share the link to Mr. Abu Jafar Fagun and we'll welcome him. So as I said earlier, this episode will be conducted in English. So yeah, and Mr. Henrik is right now staying in South Africa. He's a director of 2U, the director of software engineering of 2U, and you all know me, I'm just a software developer. So let's wait for Jafar. I think he's already here. So in this episode, we'll be conducting a job interview for senior software engineer. And the stack is mainly on C# and AWS, but depending on the job role and his personal profile CV, we'll explore more other areas whenever needed. So I would like to give the floor to Henrik, and the show is yours.
Cool, thanks. Morning, Zafar. So gonna jump straight in. You can hear me, right?
Jafar, I cannot hear you.
Yes, I cannot also can't.
No.
Also part of interviews is getting that
Yes.
technical issue sorted as well.
So it's morning 6 in your side, right?
Yes, so it's
Wow.
6 a.m. on this side.
thanks for waking up early for
It's
us.
much better than the 2 a.m. usual wake up for Malaysia when I was still working there.
Yeah.
Hey, Zafar, can we hear you now?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, now we can hear you. Cool.
Okay.
Cool, thanks. So gonna jump straight in. So from a few things that I've seen from your CV, there's a few kind of terminologies that I would like to elaborate on, or I would like you to elaborate on. So can you explain to me what you understand from SDLC?
Okay, so as you'll see, the acronym of software development lifecycle. So when one customer come to us, or when we are trying to develop a software from the sketch, we need to follow some steps to make it robust and make it successful. So those are released to requirement collection and design and development testing and the maintenance. So all of those things are elaborated or joined in SDLC.
Okay, cool, thank you. Then going in, so quite a few times microservices was mentioned on your CV and your work experience as well. Can you please explain the framework or kind of the architecture of microservices to me?
Okay, so microservice, this is self-elaborated that one service need to be micro, but what's the definition of that micro? So that is depends on bounded context. Now, what is bounded context? So maybe if some of those features are tightly coupled together, and if some of those features are works together, then we can say that those features are bounded context. So our aim is to minimize the bounded context, or to collect the bounded context, or find out the bounded context and develop a service for that bounded context only. So when we develop a bounded context microservice, then that microservice is responsible for that context or that feature. And for application that could have multiple bounded contexts and multiple features. So in that times, those are separate microservices. So now let's talk about the benefits, what you get from that, and the con side. So in microservices architecture application, we can scale every application separately. So previously, or if we use the legacy application or monolith application, then when we faced any performance issue, then we need to scale the full application. Like we need to add more hardware there. And when we need to deploy anything, or when we need to change anything, most of the time we need to deploy the full application together. So there is chances that one could break by other feature, and there is chances that we added a large amount of processing power, RAM and other things, but still our application seems slow. We need to add more things, but sometimes it's quite difficult. But if we go with the microservice architecture, then we have no need to worry about the overall full application. We need to improve some feature, or we need to add one new feature. We can do that separately, and we can scale the application using auto scale, or using replica set accordingly, according to the business need. So so maybe one of our, maybe if we think about blogging platform, there could be separate services like the blog services itself, the post services, the comment services, the authentication services. So maybe our read side is too much high load, or people use the post microservices most of the time. Then we can scale the post microservices, but keep the things remaining other things in low level, because those are not used that amount of time. And if we want to achieve the 100% uptime, or if we want to achieve the most performance, we can use the feature of auto scale of cloud services. So those are the benefits of using microservices, but obviously there are some drawbacks. So first thing, in microservices, we need to talk one system to other system or one service to other services. But if we think about monolith, we have no need to worry about that. We can talk internally, and we can make sure the transaction is happening good, and we're fine with the transactions. We're fine with the performance and other things, because we have no need to. We have no network call there, and we have no that kind of things are related to monolith. So in microservices, we need to rethink about the communication between both of those, and also we need some kind of framework or maintenance architecture like Kubernetes or other, or Docker, or things like those. So we need to maintain those. So the maintainability is one of the drawbacks, and the communication between microservices is another drawbacks. So basically, that's all about microservices.
Thank you for that descriptive explanation. Thanks there. So going on what you said now, what are some of the mediums of communication that you can implement between microservices?
Okay, so first thing first, we can talk using HTTP call or synchronized call. That could be HTTP, that could be gRPC, but both of those are synchronized. So maybe our post microservices in blogging system or posters microservices depends on author service. And that time, when we need the author information, we can do a synchronized HTTP call. And we have other communication patterns for asynchronized communication. So maybe a user submitted their post article or a comment. We can put that comment in QE or service bus. Then the regarding services catch that call or catch that QE and do the further process. So that time our services are totally decoupled. So one service have no need to understand about, or have no need to realize that other service is available or not, because sometimes there is chances that the service is down, or sometimes the because of network latency and some other reasons. So one could be down in negative status or in down status. That time that QE keep the item, and when it's up, then that service can grab that from the QE and do the several processes. And maybe that time that service require another service. That service can talk to the other services, and that could be happens in two ways, like synchronized and asynchronized. And for asynchronous communication, that could be happen in choreography structure, or in the watch structure. So in choreography, what we say, so we need to talk to other services, or other services is dependent on us, or we depend on other services. That time we generate the result from our services, from service one, and we include those in the payload. Then other services can understand that, okay, I have those payloads, I have that I have that items or that properties, and do the business according to those items. And then the second service can pass that to third one, or the n number of services. So this is what we call choreography. But in our orchestration, we need to do something like that. We have one manager, and we have multiple worker or multiple services, and every call or every item comes to the manager. That manager call to one services and get response back from that services, and understand and check out that response is okay or not, what need to be done next. The responsibility goes to that manager, and manager call to the second one, get back from the data from the second services, and accordingly process other communication. And in terms of client, when we think about asynchronous services, we need to redesign our application feature, or we need to rethink everything, because our customers or our end users are able to get that feedback immediately, because there asynchronous communication in the background. Some of the service talk to the other. It could be a success or it could be failure. So we need to make sure that when one service got the item, or when one service got the request, that time we need to do some immediate validation, the most mandatory validations, and return the customer that okay, okay, cool, we got the request, we're processing your request. And we can notify the customer in two ways, like we can send email that okay, you have requested for that thing, and that is okay, just click on that button and access your materials. Or we can use the signal or socket to notify the customer that okay, okay, you asked for that one and it's done. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. So can you explain can you explain command query separation and how that fits into microservices?
Okay, so command means when we need to modify the state of the application, that's command. And for query, when we have no need to modify the state, we only need to deal with the data. We need to get some data from the database or other storage and return to the customer. So that is query. So in microservices, if we follow the CQRS, that command query segregation pattern, then we need to maintain one database for read operations, and we need to maintain other database for write operations. So in read operation, that database would be quite simple and straightforward. So every table could contain, or every piece of data is identical, like every information are combined there. So in terms of blogging blog service, if we think about a blog post, that blog post require the blog information, like the post information, and also require the author information, because we also need to display that in the header or footer. So in read database, we combine both of those, or we store both of those in one table, and so that we have no need to worry about joining and the performance. So it would be lightweight. And we need some normalization, we need some multiple tables, we need data in multiple tables for further query or further reporting. And for that cases, we used one write database, and there we store how we store today, like the normalized way. And we need to have one background process, or we need to fire one queue or one topic when one data added to the right database. Then that queue or topic or background process, whatever itself, it generates the raw for the read database, and populate the read database accordingly.
Okay.
And so what's the benefit we got? We got faster read request, I mean faster response from the read side. And we also keep the data in ourselves for further query. And if possible, we can separate the read call and write call in separate services, so that we can scale those accordingly. But we have some issues with that, some drawbacks. And those are that there are chances that user get the stale data, because one user submitted a request, and that time we stored that in the right database, and we fired on queue. And on the meantime, when user visited the homepage or the according page, he or she may not get the actual data. They got the stale data. So this is one of the drawbacks of CQRS, and we need to maintain two databases. So the maintainability is also a drawback.
Cool. Thanks for that. going to start wrapping up the kind of architecture, more focused questions. So can you explain to me the benefit or the difference between using containerization versus VMs? What is what are the
Yeah,
core differences between the two?
yeah, I can. So in VM, what we did or what you do. So in VM, we have one operating system. On every VM, we have operating system, and we need to install the required things. What we need to what we need to publish or what we need to run. So every VM consuming some spaces for the operating system, the full operating system. We cannot use some lightweight system there. If we need to use Windows, we need to use we need to install the full Windows system, and that Windows system having tons of services internally for their for making that app or for the background processors or whatever things. So those services consuming some power, and those services consuming some memory in the background. But in Docker environment, we have no need to worry about that operating system every time. So we have one system where we have installed the operating system. Maybe it could be Windows or it could be Linux or whatever. And then we install the Docker there. So in Docker, when we deploy something, that deployment or that piece of container contain the every information what it requires to run the application. So so we have so in VM we have Windows there. We have need to install some frameworks there to run my application, or we need to install whatever things are there. But in Docker, we have no need to worry about those frameworks, those background process, those wasted memory and wasted resources, but just the things what we require to run the application. So this is one of the main difference between VM and Docker.
Perfect, thank you. Going on your CV now, so some of your work experience items, I'm going to kind of pick a few lines there, and I want you to kind of explain what your kind of role was in it. So one of your kind of job opportunities, you said that you improved the scalability of the application. Can you
Yep.
explain what was the process that you took to do that, and kind of how did you get that result?
Okay. So in terms of scalability, some of those APIs are too slow, and some of those APIs are faster, but it's faster when the load is low. But when the load gets high, we get some performance issues, and that's the scalability. So when your application can sustain on multiple users or multiple X users, then your application is scalable. But when your application behaves good for a low amount of user, but that behaves very bad or bad for huge amount of users, then that time your application is not that scalable. So in terms of fixing those, what we follow, first thing first, we take a look that are we blocking any thread there. So if we found some of those, we try to remove those, because most of the applications are released to IO. There is a very few CPU processing there, so we have no need to worry about multi-threading there. We just need to talk to the database or the other IO operations. So we remove the blocked threads from the application. That time, which recheck that how it perform, and if it feels good, then we're okay. But sometimes still we could not find out proper solution or 100% success ratio. On that time, we rethink about the feature. So maybe we are doing multiple things there, because that feature requires to do multiple things. Maybe we separate those features and communicate between internal features, but still that user need to wait for the response. That time we rethink that how we can simplify the process, how we can reduce some process, how we can do that asynchronously. So that time we remove the synchronized communication to asynchronous, and basically that's what we try to follow for the scalability.
Okay, thank you. following up on performance improvement, so another work item, you indicated that you decreased the application load time. What are some of the core areas which you would investigate firstly to try and reduce that?
Okay, so most of the cases, I mean, in our cases, the main bottleneck was the database. So most of the time, we joined 10, 20, or 30 tables at a time, and every table containing millions of records. So first thing first, I take a look at how we can improve the join. Or I missed one thing. Sorry. Most of the times in our application that are in link queue or link queue, so we communicate between the database using link queue. So for large queries, first thing we remove that link queue operation and move to store procedure. And that time, if we are okay with that, that's fine. But if you still face some issues with the performance, uh, we check out the indexes are there, how many indexes are there, are those preferred, are those okay, what are the things are there. So we improve the indexes of the tables, and maybe if it possible, we added cache there. So some of the features are updating not that frequently, and there are some operation binded to those update. Maybe user updated the account information, then we need to update the list of accounts. So that kind of features, we do the cache in Redis, and we invalidate the cache during the update. So mostly, so we convert the link queue to store procedure. We convert we fix the issues with the store procedure. We do the indexing, and we do the caching. But we also can do the table partitioning. But we, for our cases, still now we didn't face any that issues to do the table partitioning. But we also can do that.
Thanks. Faisal, do you want to take over on the .NET or C# level?
Sure. Okay, so as I can see, you mainly work on .NET Core. So, and you also said you worked on test. So my first question would be that if you have an API, how do you like to test that? What kind of test you can include in that API testing?
Okay, so first thing, I need to test the data is returning. The data returning is correct or not. Then I need to check out that my API is responding, how it is responding for wrong data. That includes the proper error message or not. That returns the exact error code or not. Then I need to test that how it perform in high load, maybe the load testing. Yeah.
So if you want to add any kind of testing, so it will touch the database, right?
Yeah, it touches the database.
So if you don't want that, how can I do that?
We can, okay, we can do that kind of test in staging server, or if you want to test the API like the integrated test, we can use some tools like a mock or tools like that. We can use Cypress to do the integration testing, and yeah.
So you have used MOQ, is it? For the
Yep.
mock testing. Nice. But for the API testing, if we want to use the test, how would you run the test? What kind of, how do you set up the test framework? What will you write? How can you set up the test suite?
Okay, so there are two things. First thing, if we need to test the overall application, including database, then we can use the Cypress there. We can call the API, and we set up the expected result there. We can match those together, and we can see that how many times or how many seconds or milliseconds it takes. We can decide that it's okay or not. But when we need to when we have blockage, or when we have problems with the API, sorry, we have problem with the database, we cannot use the database, we can think about the full feature. We can test the feature itself, and where that is request database, we can assume that I call would return that kind of data. And we need to check other things like how it works for the business check or logical check or things like that.
Okay. So have you worked on Dapper?
Yeah, I have worked on Dapper, but not that much. Most of the time I worked on Entity Framework Core, but
Okay.
a few years ago I worked with Dapper.
Nice. So in the Entity Framework Core, if we want to use the transaction, maintain the transaction scope, so how do you implement that? So for example,
Okay.
we want to insert in 3 tables, and we want to make it as unit, atomic. Yeah, how do you implement that?
Okay, so first of all, in Entity Framework, we have one transaction scope. We need to create the transaction scope. We need to do the operations there, and as the scope is inside the using statement, so when the full scope passed, we're okay. But when something happens wrong, then full rollback could happen.
So would you use any kind of commit or rollback kind of thing? Or
Yeah,
it will automatically do that?
It will automatically do that when we use the when we write the statement inside using. So when it found the commit, when the using statement is completed, then it found the commit. Otherwise, it do the rollback.
Okay, so you don't have to manually write .commit or .rollback, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we have a try catch instead of that, and in the catch block it comes, so what will happen?
Okay, but if we have that try catch, we need to do the rollback, or we need to rethrow the exception.
So how can you do the rollback?
Okay, so so we have that syntax for that. I actually forgot the syntax, but
algorithm.
Okay, so so basically, what happens when we do transaction? So so we do the process, and those processes are happened inside memory. And in the database, we do not in the database system, we also have some transaction things. So some of those things are happened inside the memory, and some other things are happened in the database. But when the code, or when the process found the commit message or a commit operation, that time it changes the store, or it changes the persistence and save the changes. But when it found the rollback command, then it revert everything and keep the stage as it was previously.
Nice. Okay, so have you implemented mediator pattern in using ASP.NET or ASP.NET Core?
Yeah.
So how did you do that?
Okay, so basically we use the mediator library itself. So the things are something like that.
Okay. Go on.
Okay, so the things are something like that. Our features not need to know about other features. We can we're not coupled together. So we need to do something. We say that to mediator, okay, I need that thing, I need that query. So the corresponding feature are available there, and mediator send the command or send the call to that feature. That feature get the data from database or other persistence or other third-party API. Then that mediator send the data back to our feature. So that time, so there it is. But in mediator, we have 2 other concepts of command and and command and the notifications. So when we need to do something like we need to modify the stage of the application, then we send a command there, and that command we're not expecting any message from there, but it's possible to get messages from the command, but it's said anti-pattern in mediator. And we have another thing called notification. So when we need to notify something, or when that call or that task is not directly coupled with the feature, we just need to notify something happened, then we can use the notification.
Okay, that's fine. I was thinking maybe you
implemented internally in mediator it
manually.
Yeah.
So okay, so for example, if we have two APIs.
No, I did not implement it manually. Yeah. Okay.
So if you have two APIs, suppose API 1, it is a single service, and API 2 is a different service, and both are actually in the microservice. Can you use mediator between two APIs, and what will be the use case?
So you mean both are separate in microservices, separate microservices?
Or maybe in the how do you implement in ASP.NET API? I know, suppose ASP.NET API. So how do you incorporate that mediator into that ASP.NET API?
Okay, so can you please clear me that those are in same microservice or in separate microservice?
Give us two use cases for two cases. So if we have the same service, two APIs, can we use that?
Okay.
If we have two different service, can we use that?
Yeah. For the first scenario, like when we have same service but different API, we can use mediator like that. But when we have multiple service, the API is distributed in multiple service, we cannot do other things like that. We need to use the API call or other asynchronous protocols.
Nice. Okay. So another thing is ASP.NET Core. So in the ASP.NET, so in your microservice, you only have single stack, right? ASP.NET Core APIs in the microservice, or you have used other stack as well, like Node.js?
Okay, so professionally, in my professional life, I did not use that polygate architecture or polygate, but personally, sometimes I used that kind of things.
Okay.
For test purposes.
So in the microservice architecture, what kind of okay? So what is the purpose of API gateway, and what is the tool you have used?
Okay, so so the purpose of API gateway is simple. Like our gateway gets some request. It need to delegate that request to the according microservices or services. So the reason behind that, okay, suppose we have tons of microservices there, and we need to use the authentication there. So our services need to check out that user is valid or not, or something like that. So if we need to if we have no gateway there, so our client need to directly communicate with the services, and every services need to maintain that authentication. But when there is one gateway in the place, that time our services have no need to worry about the authentication or some other things, and we can deploy the services internally. So the network, there is no there is not available in network over where without where. So so those are those, yeah.
So
those are safe.
What tool did you use, or
Okay,
which framework?
Okay, so in Flex Funding, we used we developed the gateway by ourselves. We use the .NET framework, S2.NET Core framework, and we develop the things by ourselves. We talk to the other API over HTTP, and personally, I have used Oscillate there, and that is used for that kind of for performing that kind of scenario.
Nice. So another question is, it's also related with .NET, but in the microservice world, how do you trace the distributed tracing or distributed logging?
Okay, so
I should rephrase that. How can you trace the request across the microservice?
Yeah, I understand. So currently, what we do, we are using Azure Analytics, and every request has one GUID, and when we need to talk to other requests, we pass that GUID there, and when that request need to talk to other request, we pass the same GUID there. So using the GUID, or when something happens wrong, okay, we found that we got exception, and before that we got the GUID, and we can search using that GUID in the Azure Analytics, and we can get that the operations relates to that that call.
I would like to know about more of it. How do you implement into the .NET APIs? Not about the what is the distributed testing. So suppose you have the GUID. How do you, where did you get the GUID? And the API actually gets the GUID. Give me the technical details. Where and how you are receiving the GUIDs.
Okay, so first thing, we got one call in the API, and that API need to talk to other API. That time, the first API created the GUID, and that
but
time
you have API gateway. You don't have API.
Yeah. So API gateway. I mean the API or API gateway. That one used to create the GUID, and that GUID is sent to other services when they need to talk over HTTP or over QE. It depends what kind of operation we're doing.
Will you send via the header, or you send via the post body?
We fire by the post body.
So each of the post body will have the ID in it.
Yeah.
So into the receiving API, how do you like to get that? You are parsing the body and getting the ID of. Doesn't it actually add more payload? And if some API doesn't want to handle that, okay. So if you're saying, like, if we have a student model, we are sending the student model from API gateway to student service. That student model will have another property, trace ID equals to GUID. Is it?
Yeah, something like that.
Do you think it's a good design?
Maybe we can improve the design by including that inside the header, but currently we're using this one. Maybe I can do some more R&D regarding this, and to understand the drawbacks and the pitfalls of this approach.
Okay, so so if you want to handle this via header, do you know anything? Okay, so I'll not answer it. How do you think to implement this? I mean, how do you like to implement this if you want to handle it?
Okay, so yeah, so we can do this do this something like that. We pass the message in the header, and that time in the other services we use some middleware there, and that middleware read the header, and that middleware do the other steps of logging.
So
I think
does this middleware have any name in
solve
.NET
the problem?
Does this middleware have any specific name or any class name in the .NET Core?
iLogger?
No.
Okay, then
what does it? Yeah. Attribute? Does it ring a bell? Attribute or some pre-processing framework which actually does call before
filter.
Yes, attribute filter, right? You can do it via those, not iLogger. iLogger is the implementation of the logging.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I think Henrik, back to you.
Thanks, Faisal. So picking up from where Faisal was talking about, can you maybe explain, so not all instances you would require to go microservice. Can you think of a specific scenario where a monolith approach might be better?
Yeah, in some when we have application that do not require a high amount of load, that is not in that case that maybe we can think about the parking system. So every day maybe 1,000 or 5,000 user come to the parking and do their reservation there. For those kind of systems, we do not require the load is almost predefined. Like 5,000 would be the maximum number, because maybe we have only 500 slots are there. So in that cases, if we try to use the microservice, it would complicate the things, and when we have when the operation is too simple. Mostly in those cases, it's better to not use microservices.
Okay, and Faisal, you coming
Yeah.
off mute? You want to ask?
Yeah. So after you finish, I can start with the cloud thing.
That's fine. I was also on my way to cloud. So
perfect. Go on, please.
Okay. So when using serverless, so serverless is one of the things that you have in your CV. When using serverless, what is one of the cons that you need to take into account when planning out how you would implement service for its functionality?
Okay, so in serverless, first thing, the cold, the hot and cold things, like when the function fired for the first time, that time it takes more time to fire and to operate. So this is one of the drawbacks. And another thing is that in serverless, we have some limitation that one process or one request can run for 5 minutes. So when we have any operation background process or anything like that, it could not be done within that amount of time. That time we should rethink that, are we going to use the serverless? And when we have so for the first call, we also can solve this, when we do the deployment, we can add some schedule task, or we add some background tasks to fire um, those um, those demo call or those test calls in the server, so that it would remove some of the difficulties of cold startup.
Thank you. And when it comes to scalability, so you have used DynamoDB?
No.
You haven't used DynamoDB. Okay, cool. I'll skip that one then. Faisal, you want to ask cloud?
Yes, I was going to ask about DynamoDB because in our job post, it is actually mentioned the DynamoDB. Anyway, so have you worked any NoSQL database?
I have worked in personal projects or personally, but not in that high level.
Which one?
Yeah, I have used MongoDB for some test purposes, for some curiosity, but that is not in that deep level.
Okay, it's okay. So have you worked on AWS other services like SQS, SNS?
For SQS, if I'm not wrong, SQS is used for the as a message broker, right?
Yes, maybe. Have you worked on those?
Okay, so we
actually I'm asking you.
I worked in Azure, but I did not work in AWS a lot.
Okay, fine. So I'm rephrasing it for the Azure. So in the Azure, what kind of message broker or message queue or queuing system have you got? What are the offerings Azure give us? Yeah.
Okay, so in Azure, for message brokering, we have 3 options, I believe. So we're using the service bus, and there is another option for called QE, what comes with the storage account, and we have another option called event grid, what is used when the amount of data is used or best, and I have used the Azure Service Bus. So I have a very minimum idea about the event grid, but the difference between Service Bus and QE is that in Service Bus, it don't guarantee that your first request would be served first, but in Azure Queue, it guarantees that your first request will be served first. And in terms of performance, in terms of scalability, the service bus performs better than the Azure QE. And we have concept of QE and topic in Azure Service Bus. So QE is something like one-to-one communication. So one sender and one receiver. But in terms of a topic, that's something like one-to-many communication, like one sender, multiple receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we use topic into this Azure queue?
Actually, I did not work with Azure Queue that much. Most of the time, I worked with the service bus. If I'm not wrong, we cannot use topic there. We need to use other services like Event Grid or something like that.
Okay. So if suppose I request something to the queue, and it got failed, what will happen? Do you know?
Yeah. So first of all, if we do some configuration there when we're creating a file in the queue, then we can add that, wait for that amount of time and retry then. Otherwise, we can do something like that. For fast failure, you need to reschedule the queue. Or if we have, if we did no configuration, that time it would try for 10 times to execute, and when it failed, then it goes to dead letter queue.
Nice. Okay, Henry.
Sorry, just quickly getting back to the CV. Can you maybe explain? Oh, so can you explain to me the principles and the kind of the concept of CICD? And what is the
Okay,
core
so
objective of implementing that?
okay, so we implement the CICD to do the continuous delivery and faster deployment. So we need to make sure that we can roll back if anything happens wrong in the server. So we can do the rollback immediately. We can deliver the new products or new release in various OS. Like we can think about that. First of all, that users of that region would get that feature. If when it seems like everything is seems okay, then we release that feature to other regions. Or we can think like that, a random number of people will get that feature first, then when everything seems okay, then we'll perform for the others. So the CICD pipeline help us to do those. And beside that, we can use some integration of unit testing, and we can make sure that when it goes to the server or when it goes to live, it would not break or it would not crash. Because in the CI process, we build everything, we run the test cases, so that we would be more confident about the deployment. So yeah, I think those are the main things behind the CI/CD.
Nice. So so far we have asked you about a lot of things, but how deep have you worked on JavaScript or TypeScript?
Uh, Basically, I in my professional life, I worked with TypeScript most of the time because we used Angular in my current job and two of the previous jobs. And in terms of TypeScript, I used sometime I used for some curiosity, or sometime I used when I got interested. So basically, that's the things. But sometimes I used TypeScript, JavaScript for Node.js, but those are for learning purposes.
Okay, so you have worked on Angular, right?
Yeah.
So how do you want to implement the authentication system using Angular in the client side and .NET API in the server side? So give me as much as you can. It's the technical details, not the theory.
Okay, so the client application call to the server that includes the bearer token inside the header. Then the server verify the token, and if it seems not okay to the server, it returns the 401 error code. And then we have the login guard and the HTTP interceptor that when it found that the 401, it redirect me to the login page or some other error page. So for the first time, when the client side goes to the server with the credentials, it goes to when the server validate that and confirm that that is okay for us and this is the valid user. That time it returns what JWT token, and the server and the client side. And the client side, when it finds that the user asks to remember the password, that time it stored the token inside the local storage. Other time it stored the token inside the session storage.
So you have talked about the JWT. Can you briefly talk to us what is JWT? What is the
Okay, so
parts?
Okay, so yeah, it's the acronym of JSON Web Token. So in JWT, we have three parts. First thing, the header, body, and the signature. So header contains the information of which algorithm it used to do the encryption or other things, and the body part is self-explanatory. It contains the user information, what would require for the server or the server. And the signature, it use some private key and do the encryption and store the signature of the message. So when it comes to the backend, and that time it decode that signature and verify that it's a valid JWT or not.
So why is this signature is important?
Because that is used for the decoding of that is used in decode to decode to verify the signature is correct or not. Because maybe one user can modify the token, and that time that signature would not match, wouldn't match.
Right. So it prevents us to tampering
Yeah.
from tampering.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question about the Angular. So in the Angular, if we want to use role-based access control in the Angular side, so how would you like to implement that?
Okay. You mean the rule-based
Some of the
authentication?
roles, some of the routes will not come. Some
Yeah.
of the components. I mean, suppose the text box or the table will not show, something like that. Depends.
Okay. So first thing, if it's about the URL, then we can use login guard. So those URL would not be served for specific rule, and other URLs would be served for that rule. And when it comes to the data or component, then basically we use the store NGRX. So we can keep the rule name and the details in the store, and we can check out that from the store that that rule is available for that component or not.
Okay. Sounds good. Henrik?
I think that wraps it up from my side. I've got no further questions.
Nice. So do you have any question? I mean, the courteous question is for the candidate. Do you have any question for us?
Yeah, I have a questions. Maybe you can explain it from your side or your company, as it's a mock. So what is the process you follow when you got one requirement, or when you need to feature release something, or what is the process you follow to add new feature? How you got the requirement, how you do the architecture, and how you do the deployment. I mean, the high level overview.
Faisal, you want to take that?
Okay, sure. So in our company, we religiously follow the Agile methodologies. So basically what happens is we work closely with our product manager, and the product manager actually talks with other stakeholders, and he manages the requirements. So when he comes to us, everything starts from the grooming session, where he represents us or presents us what will be needed into the upcoming weeks, not precisely in this sprint, but in the upcoming weeks. So we discuss and we flesh it out more of the requirements, and we come to a general idea that, okay, this is the thing we need to do. Then after that, if we have any question, we ask them or ask him, or we discuss among ourselves. So that's the planning session, we can say, or grooming session. Yeah. So after that, we come to the actual session where we want to plan for the sprint. So before coming to this session, we already have grooming session. We have suppose 10 or 15 or 20 tasks. So in this session, the planning session, we prioritize our tasks, and we calculate what are the tasks we can do in the next upcoming 2 weeks. So we actually pick those tasks into the planning session for that sprint, and we actually set a sprint goal. So then the sprint starts. So every day we come at morning, and we present what we did yesterday, what we'll be doing today, and if there is any blocker or not. So it's a common process. So after 2 weeks, we have some other ceremonies as well. So we come to a conclusion, though. So we come to the sprint end. So normally we don't always do sprint demo, but sometimes we do sprint demo. So we show our stakeholders what we did on the upcoming previous sprints. So after that, we do our retro because sprint is closed, done. We do our retro. So what went well, what didn't go went well, something like that, and we come up with what needs to be improved, those kind of thing. And so after the retro, we again go back to the square one where the mega improving session. It's the basic process. So sometimes we skip one or two process. Sometimes we stretch some of the session more than 2 hours. So it depends, but this is the basic streamlines.
So, how you do the QA part? You used to do the QA by yourselves, or you have dedicated team for the QA?
Excellent question. So in our company philosophy, you build it, you own it, you ship it. So this is the main philosophy. So we don't have any dedicated QA in our team because we as a developer feel like we have the responsibility to ensure the quality. But what I saw, we have a overall company-wide QA team who actually tries to manage the whole company-wide process. So we don't have any dedicated QA but we use Cypress to automate all of the user flows. And we also have unit test and integration. No, we don't have integration test. Cypress is doing that. Yep. Henrik, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to add to that. So the tech strategy in the company is also around not having staging environments. That is the end goal where they want to get to. But part of that is why we also don't have testers is because we want the developers to own their code, as Faisal said. And the QA team is more kind of the practices team. They educate the developers and they try and uplift the teams to understand why you should use test coverage, why you should do integration testing. So it's kind of a lead by practice kind of team. By the way, now that you've asked questions, I've got a follow-up question for you. So can you explain what feature toggling is used for?
If I didn't miss you, you asked about the what one QA should do. Can you please?
Sorry, so
yeah.
This is completely unrelated to what you just asked. I just remember this was a question I wanted to ask, but I forgot it earlier. Can you explain what feature toggling is?
In toggling.
Feature toggle. Feature toggle. Do you know what's the difference?
Okay, yeah. You mean the feature toggle?
Yeah.
Yes.
Feature toggle, yeah.
I'm not familiar with that terms. Sorry.
That's fine. Sorry, it was kind of a last minute thing. Sorry, my son is just walking in here now.
Okay.
That's time.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up. So thanks for your time, Henrik and Abu Jafar. So yeah, thanks for joining in. I'll keep in touch with you guys. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.